Are you somebody new who's starting to become a software engineer? Well, you're in the right place because I'm also starting to become a software engineer, and today we're going to go over a couple topics that I've been learning and researching on my own. So, if you're somebody who hasn't started or done anything, this is excellent for you because I'm fresh, it's in my mind, and I'm learning these things. And the reason I'm making these YouTube videos is to teach it. So that's one of the most important things you're going to want to do in order to actually learn things. When you're learning things, the best thing you could do, it's called the Feynman technique, is learn it and then turn around and teach it to somebody. So these YouTube videos are made so that I can teach you something, I can learn something from it, and you can also benefit from it. So you can kind of see if you're a couple steps behind where I am, you can kind of see where I'm at and what I'm learning and how you can kind of catch up to where I am and then keep progressing from there. So, with that being said, we're going to get into a coding challenge. It's going to be talking about data structures, modern operators, and some strings. Essentially, we're going to get right into it right here. Alright, so if you don't know how we usually do things here on the channel, check it out in the previous videos, but essentially we just do a rundown of a coding challenge, and I'm currently doing this Udemy course. I'm not sponsored by Udemy, by the way, but hey Udemy, if you're trying to sponsor me, let me know. Anyway, um, we essentially do a rundown of coding challenges that this course has that I'm currently following. This is by Jonas Smetman. It's called JavaScript Zero to Expert. It's a master course. It's pretty awesome. It does cost money, but if you are in the military, then you can get that for free. And if anybody wants to know how you could do that, essentially you just set it up with your email and stuff. But yeah, so what we like to do here is we like to read through the problem and then go task by task or step by step through the problem and then figure out how to solve the solution. So here we go. We're building a football betting app, and this guy is he's European, so it's soccer for my American friends. So it's actually soccer. Suppose we get data from a web service about a certain game, quote unquote game, variable on next page, and that's this. So all this information is like a pretend API. API is just like where you get information from another resource, pretty much, from my understanding. And then in this challenge, we're going to work with that data. So task number one is going to be create one player array for each team. So before we get started, I'm going to tell you kind of the couple things that we're going to work on, and if you want to like look at this, pause the video and try and work on it yourself, that's going to be awesome too if you kind of are caught up. But we're going to be talking about things about like the spread operator, the rest operator. We're going to be using logical assignment operators, and we're also going to be doing a little bit of destructuring. So if you don't know what those things are, then just keep watching. I'll explain them as we go. But if you do know what those are and you are capable of using those at a basic functionality, then go ahead and try this problem. Give it at least 15 minutes to try and look at them. Try and solve a couple of them. If you can't, that's fine. That's what I'm here for. I'm gonna walk you through it, and we're gonna go ahead and get into it. So here we go with task one. All right, guys. So we have a fresh JavaScript document right here on VS Code. So if you don't know what VS Code is, check out some of my previous videos. It explains a little bit more in those. But first thing we're gonna do is enter strict mode. So the way we do that is we use single quotes, and we're gonna do use strict, and then we're just gonna put our semicolon. So using strict mode, if you don't know by now, essentially allows you to make sure if you have any errors or anything in your code, it's gonna let you know. So it's gonna not let you be able to do stupid things without letting you know. So that way, you can fix them, and that way you don't have to debug in the future. So here we go. So first thing we're gonna do is import that API, the game. Um, get rid of that. So we have an object called game. It has all these arrays in an array, and it has a bunch of objects in it and stuff. So it's essentially just this big object with a bunch of information. So first task is going to be, we'll just copy and paste them in so we can kind of go from there. All right, create one player array for each team, variables player one, players one, and players two. So we're definitely going to be having to do some destructuring here. So essentially it wants us to take this players array right here, this big one, and give this portion essentially call it as a variable players one, and call this players 2. And the way we're going to do that is you're going to see right now by destructuring. So we're going to do const, and then we're going to do an array, because that's what it is. As you can see, it's an array. And we're going to call the first portion players 1. So essentially it takes the arrays, whatever you name it. So we would name it players 1. That is going to be the first index. So that name that you just now labeled this is this first index. So the 0 index right here for this array is now called players 1. So that's all these. And then the second one is just going to be called players 2. And then what we equal this to is, if you want to take a guess, it's going to be game.players, because that is the property that we are accessing. So boom, that's step 1 done. Alright, if you can kind of read it, it says the first player in any player array is the goalkeeper, and the others are field players. I cannot say these people's names, so I'm not even going to try and butcher them. For team 1, create one variable, goalkeep, or GK for goalkeeper, the goalkeeper's name, and one array for field players with all the remaining 10 field players. So essentially, we're going to have to somehow, it says the remaining, so the rest of, so we're going to have to use, it's kind of hinting at we're going to use the rest operator. So with that being said, we're going to first access the players for team 1. So players, this is team 1, so all these players. So what we'll do here is const, and then an array. So he said name the variable for the first. So essentially now we're going to be inside of this array right here. So this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, 3, so on and so on. So the first person is this newer guy, and we're just going to name it, same concept as up here before when destructuring. So now he's GK. And to essentially name a variable and get the rest from everybody from this one index and on, we're essentially just going to do rest with this triple dot operator. That's essentially rest, and we're gonna do what it wants to call field players, and boom, that's how you do it. And now we're gonna equal this to players 1, and then now if we were to console.log GK, we would get newer, and then if we were to console.log field players, we would get everybody from this padvard guide down. And next we're going to move on to the second thing. And also one key note to note is the reason this is the rest and not spread is because it's on the left side of the equal sign. So when you're using it on the left, it's rest. When you're using it on the right, it is going to be spread. So just keep that in mind when you're using these operators. Alright, so created an array, quote unquote, all players. So the array should be called all players, containing all players of both teams. So spread, if you don't know, spread essentially unpacks arrays. So anything where there's a bunch of values that have commas after them, it unpacks that. So the way we're going to do this is, I'll show you right now, is we're going to create an array const called all players, and we're going to equal that to, and now we create our array. And now we're going to spread all the players. So we need all the players in players 1, and all the players in players 2. So as you can see, the spread, so this right here, this variable is just one array. So we use the triple dot spread operator, so that way we could get every single, we can unpack it. So now all of them are in there. And then we did the same thing to players 2, and that unpacked everything, and now it's all inside one array. So if you were to console.log all players, it would just be one array with all 22 of these players. So yeah, now we're going to move on to step 4. Alright, so essentially we're going to do the same thing we just did, but we're only going to do it for team 1, and we're going to add a couple people. So during the game, team 1 used 3 substitute players, so create a new array called players 1 final, containing all the original team 1 players plus Tiago, I can't say these people's names, I suck. Can't speak English, but yeah. So we want to call it players one final equals, and we're just gonna spread players one because that's what it asked for, containing all of the original team one players. So that's all of players one, and then we're gonna add these people. So we're gonna do Tiago, and then comma Nino and Perisic. All right, boom. Oh, my bad. We're missing this right there. Okay, we're good. So now if I were to console.log this, I would essentially see, I would see all these players right here, plus these three players at the end in one array. So next, step 5. Alright guys, so based on the game.odds object, create one variable for each odd called team1, draw, and team2. So this is going to be a little different when you're destructuring with objects and you're reassigning property names or variables, I mean. So it's talking about this one right here, this object right here, odds, and it wants us to keep this name the same, so that's fine, and keep team2 the same. Essentially, we're going to turn this x to a new variable called draw, or a new property called draw. So the way we do that is we're going to do const, and we're going to do some destructuring. So the way we destructure is we're going to do object because it is an object, and we're going to do odd, and then the way we keep going into, so the way we just got into this object now is we just did sim or colon, and we did odd colon or odds colon, sorry, odds colon, and that's going to take us inside of here. So now we're currently just hovering in this, so we can start using the same kind of method. So this one's already called team 1, so we don't have to change it. So team 1, and then so in order to change the property name, you're gonna have to reassign it a value. So essentially, let me show you what I mean. So x is gonna be draw, just like that, and then we're gonna keep going, and then team 2, and now we're gonna equal this all to game. And if we're console.log this, we would see, if we were console.log team 1, draw, and team 2, team 1 would equal 1.33, and draw would equal what x used to equal, so 3.25. And team 2 would equal what team 2 equals right there. So yeah, now we're going to move on to step 6. Alright, so this one shouldn't be anything new, but we're essentially just creating a function. The function is going to be called print goals that receives an arbitrary number of player names, not an array, and prints each of them to the console, along with the number of goals that were scored in total, which is the number of goals is equal to the number of players that were passed in. So, the way we're going to do this is we're going to create the function name, goals equal function, boom, boom, and create this. Alright, so the way we're going to have it so that it can take in any amount of numbers or players is essentially we're going to do the rest operator. So the way we do that is just 3 dots, and then we're going to make a parameter called players. So then it wants us to console.log players, receives a number of players and prints each of them to the console along with the number of goals that were scored. So what we could do is do a little different. So we're going to do a temporary literal, and we're just going to do All right, so we're going to log players, and then we're also going to do the number of players, which is, we're just going to do console.log temperate literal, boom, players dot length, because like it said right here, along with the number of goals that were scored in total, and the goals in total are the number of players that pass in, of players names passed in, and player. So let's just say four goals were scored. Boom, and we'll just finish it out with another tick mark. Oh, tick mark's there. I need to get rid of this tick mark. So you see in strict mode, you get like those squiggly like black lines under. That's kind of telling you that something's wrong. You need to fix it. And that's pretty much good there. So it logs every players, and then it also gives back the number of players. So we're good on number 6. Okay, guys, real quick. So just remember that so a while ago I just added these, but we had it like this before I just came back, and this is not exactly what this is asking, so I figured I'd touch on it. And one extra thing to note. So essentially, it's gonna take whatever it's gonna take if we put in an array through here or something, or if we just put something just like this. Um, this is going to log us just an array back, because it's gonna give us the rest, and then whenever it goes through here, it's going to turn it into an array. And then it's going to console.log it, and it's just going to give back an array because that's what it turned it into. So in order to unpack that array, we're going to have to use the spread operator right there, and it's going to unpack it. And one last thing to note is that if you are, like, let's say I put in just, like, I take away all these quotes right here, and I do this, and I make this whole thing one single object, this is going to give back, it's going to say one one goals were scored, because this is technically actual one actual player. So in order to fix that, we just add back all of the tick marks, or you use the spread operator. So like, let's say we are going into an array, let's just make a random array, array equals, I don't know, 1 2 3 4 5, right? And then in order to counteract that, we're just essentially going to spread. So we're going to do dot 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 array, and that is going to break it up into each actual section, and it's going to make it more than just one single unit, if that makes sense. Because if you put in an array is just one, but if you unpack the array, then you have all 5 of those values. So that's just something to note whenever you're doing this problem. On to step 7. Alright guys, so this number 7, the team with the lower odd is more likely to win. Print to the console which team is more likely to win without using an if else statement or the ternary operator. So it's essentially asking, let's use a logical assignment operator here, which is going to be the nullish operator, the and operator, or the or operator. And with that being said, we need to write a little bit of logic here. So the team with the lower odd is more likely to win. So if team 1 is less than, and the reason, you're probably wondering why I'm just writing team 1, because I was wondering the same thing. The reason I'm able to write just team 1 is because if you remember in step 5 right here, we created a variable called team 1. So now when I call in team 1, it's going to give me this value right here, which is 1.33. So if team 1 is less than team 2, now our question right now is, which operator is out of the nullish, the and the or, is going to give us a essentially, it's going to check for truthy, like, and if it's truthy, it's going to keep going. So that's going to be and. So and then console.log uh, which team? So team one is more likely to win, and we'll just make this a string. Boom. Add a semicolon. And so now when you console.log this, because team 1 is less than team 2, so this is going to be true. So it's going to keep going. And then it's just going to console.log this and give back that result because there's nothing else for it to keep, computing or evaluating. So guys, that is this whole problem. I want to thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you. I hope you learned a good bit about destructing in here. We talked about destructing objects, arrays, mainly just arrays. We did a little bit of the objects in step 5, but we also talked about logical assignment operators. We talked about the and, the or, and the nullish. Real quick, if you don't know what the nullish is essentially this right here is it was added in ES, I think 2020. It's two double quotes or two question marks, sorry, and essentially it works a little bit different, but it only identifies null and undefined as falsy values. So it's going to keep going until it finds a falsy value, but only counts null and undefined as falsy values. And or is just like nullish, but it has all the falsy values. So 0, empty string, um, null, undefined, things like that are all going to be counted as undefined or a falsy value. So once it finds that falsy value, it's going to stop in its tracks and it's going to reply with that falsy value. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. Um, and when it stops in its tracks, it's called short circuiting, if you want to know the proper term. So that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all the effort you guys are putting in, and I know you guys are working hard. You're gonna become software engineers. We're all gonna become software engineers. I'm talking like I am one. I'm currently not one yet, but if you guys don't know, I am going through this course called Galvanize. It's a boot camp. It's 19 weeks long. It's awesome. I'm really stoked about it, and I'm just enjoying every moment, and I just couldn't be more thankful to have that opportunity to do it and become a software engineer and do something that I actually love and create cool things like this and keep working on my craft and my skills. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Follow my social medias, like this video, comment on it, and give me some more ideas, things you want to watch and learn. And if you guys are interested, I do PC builds, so check out the link down below. You can order PC build. It's something I do on my pastime, but I'm pretty passionate about that too. Um, and if you guys want to connect with me, that is something that I'm pushing for you guys to do. So hop on the Discord description, or the links in the description down below. Hop on there. Have a bunch of people who are very new to software engineering and just web development and stuff like this, JavaScript, but we're all kind of bouncing off each other, like we're learning, like we're telling each other like, hey, check this new Notion template out, check this new thing out about this, about React, about JavaScript, about Node.js. It's just different stuff. We're bouncing off each other, and we're just talking and we're having a good time. Sometimes we'll play games in there too if we have a little bit of downtime. So it's just all a good time all around, but I want you guys to check that out as well. And without further ado, we'll see you guys in this video right up here where we're talking about something just like this video.